All right, we just heard from J.J. McCarthy, how comfortable he says he is. Pete Bercich now joining us from Chicago, also looking very comfortable tonight. It's a beautiful place you have yourself set up there, Peter. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, if JJ's as comfortable as I am right now, we'll be fine. No worries.
All right, this kid has said everything right from day one since he's taken over. He says nerves aren't a problem. He's never been more confident in his abilities than he is for this matchup. But he grew up just 15 miles away from here. Everybody he knows is going to be either at the stadium or watching him play. I mean, there's got to be something going on in his head. He can't be sleeping like a baby tonight, is he?
Well, who knows? I mean, he might be. He might just. I mean, if you look at his history, this isn't the first big game he's played for. He played for University of Michigan, big school, played in some big games, so he's used to this. Yeah, he's going to have – he grew up 15 miles from here in LaGrange Park. He's going to have a ton of family and friends and Michigan alumni and all kinds of hangers-on. You know, you got to be careful. You don't want the bandwagon to get too big. So – you know, for him, it's just a matter, I think, of dealing with it like Coach O'Connell has said all during the week, and it's just do the little things right. Just keep stacking all these little things on top of one another, and next thing you know, the game's going to be over. So one step at a time. Don't look at the big picture, because if you look at the big picture, it can become daunting. And, you know, it's his first game, but he's been in some big ones, so I don't think the stage is too big, and I think this is where having that year last year – to feel what this environment's going to be like, know what the locker room's going to be like, what his teammates are going to be like, what Coach O'Connell is going to be like, all those things are going to help.
All right. What kind of game, though, do you think he is going to be asked to handle by O'Connell? Does he go back to the aerial attack? Does he try to run the ball? How much do you think he's going to put on McCarthy's plate? We'll talk about the running backs in a second, but just how much do you think McCarthy is comfortable putting on his plate?
Well, what we've heard, again, from Coach O'Connell is that he's a little bit ahead of schedule. So they might limit it a little bit in certain ways, and that's rolling him out, bootlegging, trying to cut the field in half so he doesn't have to make a ton of reads that are all the way across the field, those kinds of things. But you can only help them out so much. Now, the other way to help them out is with the running game, and with the Bears and their defensive front, the lack of pressure that they put on the quarterback last year. Dennis Allen, very aggressive coordinator. Will they be able to keep up in a game that turns into that? We'll see. But the more I learn about the Bears and their defense and the injuries that they might be facing, the more optimistic I am that our offense is going to have a good night.
All right, some bad news coming out from the Vikings this afternoon. They announced that Harrison Smith didn't make the trip with you guys even to Chicago, so he is out. What kind of problems will that present for Brian Flores to try to not have the captain of his secondary available to him?
Well, it's going to put a lot on Jay Ward and Theo Jackson, right? And we kind of knew this. Theo's been in there. He's been working with the ones. You know, Jay Ward is the guy that we hadn't seen a ton of up until this time, familiar with the system. I guess the good news of the whole thing is that Harrison Smith has not eaten up a lot of practice time for these young guys. That's where things get to be a problem, is when you have someone that's slated to be a starter, taking all the reps in practice, and then all of a sudden – something happens right before the game. Well, in this case, all the guys, all the backups, they've been getting all the reps all during the week. So trust me, the Bears are going to test them, right? Ben Johnson's going to test these guys, I think, early and often, and they've got to be ready to step up. But it's going to be tough to not have Harrison Smith out there, because he's the quarterback of the defense, especially in the back end.
Yeah, it's going to be a big loss for the Vikings right out of the gate. Flip back to the offense again for a second. And Adam Thielen, he's been here for a week. He's got his feet wet. We've heard the stories about he and McCarthy working out in the summer. not really thinking that they were going to be teammates someday, but now they are. How big of a role will Adam have in this game? Where do you see him being comfortable in just 1 week of practice, but he's got to fill in for Jordan Addison, who's sitting out the first of 3 of his suspension?
Well, I would assume that most of that duty is going to go to Jalen Nailor. And Jalen Nailor started out hot last year. He did a great job early. He had 6 touchdown receptions. So I think Jalen Nailor is going to see a bulk of those snaps. But then to have Adam Thielen, an experienced guy that I think will be utilized more in the red zone, right? Adam Thielen's numbers have been kind of coming down over the years, which is normal. He's the oldest receiver in the NFL. But he still had 5 touchdowns last year, and that means he knows how to get open in the red zone, and that's where the good route runners get open. So I think if we see a lot of Adam Thielen, it's going to be probably inside the 20 or around that 20, 25-yard line. And don't forget about T.J. Hawkinson as well. Yeah, no doubt about it. There should be a lot of options for McCarthy, even with Addison out for this game and the next 2 after that. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about how much to put on McCarthy's plate. The running game, Aaron Jones now and Mason joining him. How do you see those 2 splitting the carries? Do you see Jones as still being the guy, or do you see this as more of a 50-50, 60-40 split? Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit kind of like how Detroit has done it in the past with their guys, that it's going to be closer to 50-50. I think it's going to be a little bit dependent on the team that you're facing. What type of running style do you want? I also think that Aaron Jones is ahead of Jordan Mason in the passing game, right? All last year, Jordan Mason only had 11 receptions, and he was a base down running back, meaning first and second down. Not that he can't block or not that he can't run routes. He just wasn't utilized a ton that way. So in that respect, I think Aaron Jones is a little more comfortable. So that all being said, you might see a majority of the third down snaps, going to Aaron Jones, and then Jordan Mason maybe getting a little bit more of the base down, first and second down type runs. Okay, now we hit on the Vikings with a loss in their secondary. You're telling me the Bears also have some issues on the back end that could be problematic for them. A couple of their best guys are questionable right now for this game. Yeah. Well, Jalen Johnson, they're one of their best corners. He's questionable with a hamstring. And then today, Kyler Gordon's name showed up on the injury report. He had been fine all week, and he's got a groin issue, I believe, or a hamstring issue. So that's a couple of guys right there. And now you're getting down to guys like, Nashawn Wright and Nick McLeod and Jalen Jones. So the Bears, their secondary that they were comfortable with, they're a pretty experienced secondary because they've been together now for 3 or 4 seasons. They might be down a couple of their key pieces as well. And, you look at, you need 1.5 at least, maybe 2 to just handle Justin Jefferson. This could be another big night through the air. I mean, if we were coming into this game with a guy like Sam Darnold, I would say we're going to be 60-40, 70-30, throwing the football around the field, right? They're also, TJ Edwards is also a little bit nicked up, so, we don't know whether or not he'll play, one of the linebackers. Okay. So their secondary, the back half of that defense is a little bit beat up. And I would say, here we go. It's going to be all through Air Coryell, man, right? All through the air. But with a young J.J. McCarthy, that may change. Now, the Bears have an issue with pass rush. I mean, Montez Sweat was their best pass rusher last year. He didn't even get to 6 sacks. They don't have anybody on this defense that had 6 sacks or more last year. So will they be able to get to the quarterback? If they can protect McCarthy, then, we might end up throwing the football a lot more than we thought. All right, last thing for you, Pete. People are going to look at this game, and if the Vikings win, it's Super Bowl. We're going. If they lose, it's off the cliff. We're done. How important is this game realistically for the Vikings to have a good performance and to get this one in the win column, in your mind? It's important. 5 teams went to the playoffs last year that lost on opening day. A majority, though, of those teams that lost to another playoff team. Just remember that.
Okay.
Statistically, it's a little bit more significant than I thought, but this is a different team this year, right? You have a young quarterback, so there are going to be some ups and some downs, and it just depends on how the game goes. Now, if the offense is firing on all cylinders, but our defense somehow lets us down, that's a whole different, that's a whole different story that you're going to come away with from this game. If the defense, let's say, gives up 15 points and we are only able to muster 14 offensively, that's that's a different story because we have a young quarterback. So it's the answer to that, Jim, unfortunately, isn't simple. It's really going to depend on the result, and if it doesn't go the Vikings' way, what was the problem? Could it be turnovers? If it's fumbling, I don't know how much the quarterback has to do with that. You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. If it's a bunch of interceptions, that's a whole different story. So just remember, nothing's ever as good as it seems, and nothing is ever as bad as it seems. And somewhere in between reality lies, especially in the NFL. You've got 16 more to go after tomorrow night. It's a long year. You got to be playing your best ball in November and December. So tomorrow is important. Absolutely. It's a huge game. But just remember, it's not the entire season.
Very true, very true. But we know one thing, you always travel in style on the road. Another great setting back there. Love the greenery behind you and the couch. This is good. This is good.
I got a gray bearded Paul Allen walking by. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, okay, there goes the view apparently. Look at, he's so happy to see you. All right, Pete, thank you so much. We look to see you tomorrow on Vikings Game Day Live at 5 o'clock, and then, of course, the game itself on the Vikings Radio Network. Yeah. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you. It's the game that never gets here, that first Monday night. Man, it takes forever.
No doubt.